What's up, YouTube? Last time I talked about Chewbacca and how he is overrated and useless. Today I'm going to be talking about how the main four characters from the sequel trilogy are underrated and in fact more useful than most Star Wars characters in the story. We will be focusing on Rey Skywalker and maybe Finn, but before I get started, I'd like to turn evil. And I'd also like to show you guys a little something. Okay, so what are we looking at? We're looking at objective versus subjective reasoning, because it's important that you guys know why I'm making this video. So, objective reasoning is all about basing decisions and opinions on facts, evidence, and data without personal bias or emotions. That's it. We don't gotta go deeper into that. Objective reasoning is objective. It's factual. It's logical. It's actually reasoning. Subjective reasoning is rooted in personal opinions, feelings, and interpretations. Okay, keyword interpretations, meaning the way that we see the world. That's subjective. It depends on the person. It's not factual. It's emotional. It's based on perspective. So I wanted to start the video by just explaining to you guys what this is. Let's get into this video because, you probably saw the thumbnail and the title and you saw that it was why Rey is underrated or why she's overhated or why she's more useful than certain characters. So we'll get into that now. Let me minimize my face.
Here's why Luke Skywalker is beloved by fans and Rey is hated by basically everyone with more than 3 functioning brain cells.
Rey Skywalker.
First of all, Luke is a flawed character who has many faults and shortcomings. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, but Jedward, you relentless rapscallion, wouldn't that make him a worse character? And the answer, dear viewer, is that no, it wouldn't. If a character is perfect and flawless, the audience has no real way to relate to them. A character needs shortcomings to be relatable and understandable. And believe me, Luke does have shortcomings. The Empire Strikes Back is literally a movie dedicated to Luke getting absolutely destroyed in everything he tries to do. He can't master the Force, he lacks patience and discipline, he gets lured into a trap, his best friend gets captured and taken away, and he loses his frickin' hand for crying out loud. For all of you who love to comment that Luke is as much of a Mary Sue as Rey is, you clearly have never watched episode 5, so let me clue you in. Luke does not have struggles, he is the struggle. A guy turns on Star Wars and calls Luke overpowered, and you think that of him? No. Rey is the Mary Sue. And look, I admit that there were times in the originals when Luke does have his Mary Sue moments. Blowing up the Death Star when it was his first time in an X-Wing was a bit on the nose, and force pulling his lightsaber from the snow when he never had any real training as a Jedi seems highly unrealistic. This may come as a shock to some of you, but George Lucas isn't a god, and Star Wars isn't a flawless story. However, a few odd examples of unreasonable ability don't mean that much in the long run. Luke is still a flawed man, who's prone to impatience and anger, and in episode 6, we see him drop very close to the dark side. What makes a character interesting and legendary is when they have flaws like these, and work to overcome them. Luke does learn patience, he does learn to control his temper, and in the end, he doesn't give in to the dark side, and he's even able to redeem Darth Vader, and that is why Luke Skywalker is beloved. But it doesn't answer the question of why Rey is hated, so let's talk about that. By the way guys, if you're enjoying the video so far, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, it really helps me out. Thanks. If I had to sum up why Rey is a bad character in one sentence, this is what I would say. If a character is flawless and perfect at everything they try to do the first time they try to do it, then they are boring, uninteresting, and hard to like. And that sentence literally describes Rey perfectly. She is the definition of a Mary Sue. In the sequel trilogy, she is good at everything that she tries, and I mean everything. She can pilot and do complex repairs on a ship that she has never even seen before, experience visions and memories that she played no part in, immediately be trusted and accepted into the Resistance with open arms despite them not knowing anything about her background, identity, or her motivations. She can resist mind control from a trained Force user despite not knowing anything about what's happening, what he's doing to her, or any real tactic for resisting. She can use the Force at a level parallel to a Jedi Master despite never once being trained in the Force and not knowing it even existed until like 20 minutes ago, and she is able to defeat a highly skilled and well-trained enemy in a lightsaber duel even though she has never even held a lightsaber. Yes, she has experience using a two-handed metal bow staff staff, which is nothing like a lightsaber, and yes, the enemy was a tad weaker than usual due to a glancing shot from a bowcaster, it still doesn't change the fact that she should have no idea what she's doing whatsoever. And all of that was just in the first movie. When a character is exceptionally talented at everything she does and doesn't need to learn anything from anyone, it makes for a boring story. What antagonist is there for her to overcome? She beat Kylo Ren in a duel the first time she met him. She taught Han Solo how to fix his own ship and showed Luke Skywalker who was boss. It's just boring and unrelatable, and most importantly, just disappointing. And that's the difference between Luke Skywalker and Rey. And Rey is only part of the reason that the sequels suck. Another major factor for the sequels' awfulness is Disney's lack of world building, which was something that George Lucas did very well in the prequels. To really understand what I'm talking about, you need to watch this video right here.
Before I even go any further and start rambling, I would like to correct myself. I stand by what I said about Chewbacca still, 100%. But I obviously did not catch the fact that he shot Kylo Ren. That is a very important feat for somebody like Chewbacca, and for that I give him credit. I really do. So, Chewbacca fans, don't get too excited, but Chewbacca fans, you caught a W today. But that's all I'm going to give you, okay? I'm trying to sugarcoat the Star Wars fans right now because it's going to get melted off way later. So, there you go. Chewbacca caught a W. Also, I understand completely why people may not, emotionally be attached to the new main characters like Poe or Rey or Finn or Kylo Ren or, BB-8, even though I don't even consider him a character. BB-8, I can't believe how many products were created off of BB-8, like BB-8 stuffed animals, BB-8 Legos, like, it's easy bait. Having said that, let's break down what we saw. So, he is completely correct, like, on the writing. Of course, the writing of the two characters are different. It makes sense for us to be more attached to Luke, especially, older generations, because he is the first. People will be more attached to Luke than they are Anakin Skywalker. People will be more attached to Anakin Skywalker than they are Rey. People will be attached to, the original trilogy characters than they are to the new characters. That's how it always is. You look at the Avengers, people are attached to Iron Man. People are attached to the original characters a lot more than they are someone new, like Miss Marvel, right? I watched the Marvels. It's shit. The villain is shit. But I understand, and I'm gonna give you guys, you Star Wars fans, especially the fans that do not like the sequel trilogy, I'm going to give you credit and understanding for that. Now, I'm going to break you guys down. Why is this really, besides subjective reasoning? Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, when it comes to media, consuming media, yes, I do consider the writing and the character and the development and, the creative aspect of the story, but I also look at objective feats. What are objective feats? Objective feats are things that characters do to progress the story. For example, I'll give you guys credit. Chewbacca shot Kylo Ren, resulting in Rey having an easier time fighting him, and even Finn having an easier time standing up to him. That's an objective feat, okay? So you Chewbacca fans...
They are boring, uninteresting...
You Chewbacca fans should be proud of that. Other reasons why people don't like our main character, Rey Skywalker, is because of her character. It could be because of the actress. It could be because of things that don't actually have to do with her personal feats, her objective feats. Let's look at the actress. A lot of people don't like characters because they don't like the actress, okay? For example, I was, writing, but I was prepping this video yesterday, and I'm looking through the pictures, I'm like, she's got nice delts. Click on this, you see she has nice delts. You click on this, it looks like she has nice, bolder delts, nice shoulders, right? She doesn't. It's an illusion. Look at her shoulder, right? Look at her shoulder. You see this, like, arm wrap band thingy? It creates an illusion that she actually has a bigger delt. Now, her delts have nothing to do with her character. I'm not going to talk about her delts. She has no delts. Is it because the actress is vegan? Maybe. I'm not saying that actresses or females are supposed to have big delts. They're not. But some may say that she looks too masculine because of small details like those freaking arm wraps. This armband makes her look like she has delts. She doesn't have delts. That's disturbing. It is factual that Rey Skywalker contributed more to the story overall. Rey Skywalker has contributed more to the story than most minor characters that are actually cherished and adored. I looked at this list last time. I think it's important that we look back on it. I am not going to disable my ad blocker. Please get out of my face. Characters who... Jesus Christ. I'm gonna just inspect it. I know it's very petty. I just don't want to see it. Like I was saying, there are many characters that, contribute... What the fuck? Get out! That contribute very minimal progress to the story. Let's look at these cartoon characters. Jango Fett, Kylo Ren, BB-8. Why is BB-8 higher in the ranking than Rey and Finn and Poe? BB-8 plays an important role, but it's not even human. It's not even human. Cad Bane is important in the freaking Clone Wars. He's very formidable. In the bigger picture, he's useless. He doesn't contribute much. Jawas in general. Okay, one could argue they are very important because they led R2-D2 to Luke Skywalker, so I'll give them a pass. Asajj Ventress. She, in fact, is probably more harmful to the story than helpful because she sets herself back. She sets her own comrades back. She's actually garbage character. She is a screw-up. I'm not saying that villains should go lower in the list because they don't progress the story. They actually do. They progress the story. If a villain doesn't decide, I want something to happen, there's no story. Echo, a cartoon. Kit Fisto. I can't believe that Kit Fisto's higher than Rey. Kit Fisto got slimed out in 3 seconds by Palpatine. He's a Jedi Master. He's a part of the council and he got cooked by Palpatine in 3 seconds. Hera. Hera's from Rebels. She's a cartoon character. She did not this is the first time I'm seeing a live action picture of Hera. I'm not trying to, sound bitchy. What the fuck? Get the fuck out of my face! So you see all these irrelevant characters, and I say irrelevant for a reason. I'm not saying they're irrelevant like they don't do anything to the story. Of course they do stuff. But this is one Ewok. 19 places above Rey. And an Ewok, I didn't even know they had names. There are no names in nature. Why does this have a name? Wicket W. Warwick. We got Poe Dameron. That's fine. That's acceptable. Emperor's Royal Guard. Emperor's Royal Guard is number 52. Unnamed numbers. Unnamed numbers are ranked above Rey. And I know I did this last video. I was crashing out last video. Yes, this man says that the story of Rey is written very poorly, and I could agree on some level. What Star Wars fans don't understand is that objective feats come before subjective opinion. I'll say it again. Objective feat comes before subjective opinion. Star Wars fans don't know how to do that. That's why we have an Ewok at number 50, a place before Poe Dameron, who is critical to the story. Characters like Finn, who are even lower. We have Rey, an invaluable character. Invaluable as in invaluable. Let's talk about Poe. I understand where disappointment comes in because I faced so much disappointment. I had so much disappointment watching the sequel trilogy at times. I thought Poe was going to be the Luke Skywalker. I thought Poe is introduced to us as the main character because most of the time in your head, when you see a character introduced before others, you associate that character with the main character. When we see Poe, especially hanging out with BB-8, we're thinking this might be Luke Skywalker and C-3PO. So I understand the disappointment. Again, he's critical. His role in the story is to be the starfighter. Let's look at Finn. Finn, he was set up to be the main character. I believe he was set up to be the main character in The Force Awakens. Actually, he would be the secondary main character in Force Awakens. Actually, he had more screen time than Poe. He was the runaway. He went AWOL. He was the traitor on the ship. We don't even see Rey until later. We get introduced to Poe, BB-8, Kylo Ren, and Finn before Rey. So I understand disappointment. It throws us off. That's just how they did it. And especially this scene, come on. I'm surprised this isn't talked about more. This scene, this character is a symbol of courage, meaning courage is not bravery. Bravery is when you're not scared to do something. Courage is when you do something even though you're scared. He clearly had no upper hand in the battle with Kylo Ren, but he chose to do it anyway because Rey got knocked out. She got packed up. Let's look at Kylo Ren. Why do people not like Kylo Ren? I'm not saying people don't like Kylo Ren. A lot of people like Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is very similar to Vader. He got led down the wrong path. Later, he revolts against the wrong path. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. Of course, there are more complexities to his character, but that's it. I kind of wish he wasn't related to Han Solo and Leia. I wish they didn't do that. I don't like when stories do birthright characters. Like One Piece, Luffy's the second coming. He was destined. It was his destiny. You know, it was there was a prophecy where he is now the new coming of Joy Boy. I don't like when stories do that because there's no merit. There's no merit. I want to refute another point from this video. I want to look back at objective versus subjective reasoning. Star Wars fans, as we see just from looking at the ranking list, again, I understand. I know, guys. I know that this is a subjective ranking. That's what rankings are, subjective. That's also how Star Wars fans operate. Greedo. Somebody could tell me that they like Greedo more than Rey, which is how retarded the fan base can be. I used to consider myself a Star Wars fan because I'm like, well, I watched all the movies. I watched all 9 movies, all 11 movies. I'm a Star Wars fan. No. Apparently I'm not. I didn't watch Rebels. I didn't watch Clone Wars. I didn't read bullshit comics. I didn't read lore. I didn't ask George Lucas for a private tutoring session as I massage his ballsack and he gives me lore on how Jar Jar Binks actually visited Naboo as a 4-year-old and got whipped by green aliens with giant strap-on dildos. You know what I mean? It's such a waste of time to even consider lore like that. But Star Wars fans just don't really know how to operate their brains when it comes to objective reasoning. You can't argue that this unnamed robot is more important and critical to the story than Rey. You can't. I don't think I should even have to state the things that she has done because, again, her role is to be the main character. Like Luke Skywalker's the main character. What did Luke Skywalker do? What did Anakin do? What did Rey do? Luke Skywalker got trained by Yoda. Rey got trained by Luke. Luke Skywalker faced up against Darth Vader multiple times. Rey faced up against Kylo Ren multiple times. And I want to look at one particular scene that a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't like the throne room scene, which I do not understand. I actually think the throne room scene, I think The Last Jedi is one of the better Star Wars films in general. It's odd to me that so many people hated it. The Last Jedi was so good at making us think. It generated so many theories. The Snoke scene when they're fighting Snoke and Rey and Kylo Ren team up and kill him is amazing. That's character development. You can't say that these characters... Well, you can't say that Kylo Ren doesn't have character development when you look at this. You just can't. Also, if you were old enough or into Star Wars at the time in 2017, you know that people lost their absolute shit over this slave boy. If you remember the ending of the movie, and look how he just doesn't appear. I look up Star Wars The Last Jedi slave, and he's just not here. But if you remember at the very end of The Last Jedi, people lost their shit. Even I did. I watched the kid pick up a broom using the Force. That's important because in this era of the Resistance in the First Order, there are no more Jedis. Hence the name The Last Jedi being Rey. There are no more Jedis. And then he pulls that stunt and we all lose our shit. No one talks about him anymore. And that's why people don't like the movie, when they should be hating on The Rise of Skywalker for not bringing him back or doing anything with his character. I think The Last Jedi was better than Rise of Skywalker. And I think Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi are better than The Force Awakens. I think The Last Jedi is the best movie in the sequel trilogy. The words that just came out of my mouth may as well make Star Wars fans crazy. And they make up stupid excuses like, Rey has bad writing. She's a Palpatine. She's not a Skywalker, she's a Palpatine. Who gives a fuck if she's not a Skywalker? Who gives a fuck? Again, proving my point that merit matters more. I don't like Birthright. You should not be relying on Birthright. That's why you should not be relying when you write your story. You know, writers that are listening to this video, when you write a story and you want to make an important character and you have other important characters, try not to be like, this could be the brother of that guy and the nephew of that guy, because you lose all merit. That's it. I guess the message of this video is directly to brain-dead, brainwashed Star Wars fans that only know how to rely on nostalgia and don't actually appreciate objective fact and objective feats that characters perform, because these guys are the same people that'll make the argument that Luke was able to fight against giant robots at the age of 72. That's a feat. Yeah, that's a feat. Exactly. You can't sit here and say, yeah, well, these characters performed all these stunts. Darth Maul, he survived getting chopped in half. He got robot legs. He fought the Emperor. He's still alive. That's great. Thank you. That's objective feats. I don't care if Darth Maul got breastfed as a child. I don't care. Like, I don't care. I don't care. So that's why this ranking system's a bunch of bullshit. I'm looking at man-made bullshit. I shouldn't say man-made, everything's man-made, but I'm looking at bullshit. Lando, characters that have 20-minute screen time max. Not even. Lando has like 12-minute screen time max. But somehow, again, the OG fans who were present at the time of the original movies are going to lose their shit over seeing Lando's cameo in Rise of Skywalker when he is irrelevant. Why do you think they do all these cameos? They do the cameos because fans want them. Fans are attached to characters from previous films because they enjoyed them as a child and they resonate. People don't like Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, or Poe, but somehow like BB-8, which is odd. But they like these characters more because they dislike these characters because they're new. They're the new thing. You will never be Luke. That's their mindset. She will never be Luke. She will never be Anakin. Okay? Exactly. She won't be Luke or Anakin. People like Bail Organa, the adoptive parent of Leia. Why? He doesn't do shit. He took in Leia and that's it. He's number 45. It's like oversaturated ball sucking. It's so weird. I hope I proved somewhat of a point and tried to maybe bring these Star Wars fans back to reality that they need to accept fact and not get, so caught up in the past. That's that. Okay? That's that. So I'm gonna go do some evil stuff, and I'm gonna take advantage of a dog.